Whenever it's Sunday, 7 o'clock, it's time for Checkmate. I'm Teddy Otieno, and I'm delighted to have in studio with me Raphael Tuju. Let's look at the Gen Zs, for instance. How did we get here?
Well, I don't know really if you want to know how we got here.
I want to know.
Then you'll have to be a bit patient with me.
Take your time.
Let me just give you two things that are going to surprise you. I mean, the last 6 weeks I've been out of the country. I was in China for about 10 days, and then after that I traveled elsewhere. But it struck me that as a young boy in 1973, I was in Nairobi when the late President Jomo Kenyatta was officially opening the KICC. It was 28 stories. It was the tallest building in the whole of Africa.
At the time.
At the time. But what is interesting is that in China, the tallest building was 26 stories. So the tallest building in Africa and in Nairobi was taller than the tallest building in China that time. So sometimes you ask yourself, what went wrong? And I think Kenyans, all of us, need to ask ourselves, what went wrong? Where did the rain start beating us? And I'll just give you an example. There are several reasons why we ended up where we are. But I want to just refer to a time when I was a young journalist in the 80s. And I had the opportunity, I was requested by UTNA to interview Dr. Robert Ouko for a radio program, actually, just like the way you're interviewing me. And it was on the issues of the economy of the country. And it was a program which was going to be broadcast throughout the whole of the African continent, all members of UTNA at that time, they used to call it. And Dr. Robert Ouko told me, I'd done a lot of research on this, and he told me that we're going to be in hot soup. So the Gen Z phenomena that we have today has been boiling for the last 40 years. And for decades, we didn't do anything about it. Just to quickly go through it quickly.
Yes, please.
In the 80s and the 90s, Kenya had the highest rate of population increase in the whole world, not in Africa.
Globally.
Globally. It was 4.2%. And I want you to mark those words, those numbers, 4.2%. Yes. That was national. But there were certain areas of the country, say like Kisii, that time Kakamega, including what is now Vihiga, and Kiambu, the rate of population increase was at 6%. That's unprecedented, unless there's a war, and then people have mass migration. Then you can have that kind of rate of population increase. So why did we have such a high rate of population increase? Well, high fertility, and less infant mortality because there was immunization, there was issues of, say, antibiotics, antimalarials, and so forth. And it's a phenomenon which takes place in other parts of the world. For example, my grandfather, there were 12. All of them died except my grandfather. So only one survived. But of course, if that was to happen today, if you have 12 children, all of them will survive, most likely.
Definitely.
So it's a demographic trend and nothing to write home about. But we could have only been able to deal with this if we had, say, an economic growth rate that could balance the population growth rate. But for 4 decades, we have not had that, except one time. Because for you to manage the kind of population increase we had, you need at least between 7 and 10% economic growth rate. That out of the top 10 failed states in the world, 3 are members of the East African Community. In fact, 6 are members of our region, because if you add countries which have challenged, like, say, Sudan, Khartoum, if you add other countries like Burundi, which is in our region, then these are what are called fragile countries. Now, there's this international scale of looking at fragile countries. Kenya is number 33. So out of the slightly over, close to 190 nations. Kenya is number 33
In that index.
in that index of fragile countries. Okay? So there are ways of deciding which is a failed country, what constitutes a failed state, and what constitutes a fragile state. First of all, you need to understand what is a failed state. A corrupt and dysfunctional executive. A corrupt and dysfunctional legislature. But the worst is a corrupt and dysfunctional judiciary. When that happens, the country is finished. Because then it brings out militia. If I have something against you, we don't go to court. I get my militia, and you get shot, and the matter is resolved in that way. That's what happens in places like Haiti. That's what happens in failed states across the world. Now, the number 4, of course, is that the central government is not able to provide basic services like in health, like in education, and other basic services. Now, I remember as a kid, I never went to a private hospital. We went to local dispensaries. There was medicine. We went to Kenyatta National Hospital, where I even worked as a Form 2 volunteer. And there was nothing you paid in hospital. When we went into primary school, there was free education, and we were given textbooks and exercise books for all of us. So today, tell me, where's the primary school, public primary school, which has been built in the city of Nairobi for the last 30 years? I know as I was growing up, there was Kongoni Primary School, where my kid brothers went to school. There was Madaraka Primary School, Uhuru, and several others. These were primary schools run by the state, delegated to the municipalities. Today, give me one.
Gone with the wind.
Gone with the wind. So in terms of fragility, when I'm saying that this is a fragile country, all the indices which indicate fragility, we meet them.
We're checking all the boxes.
We're checking all the boxes. Now, in the security sector, I want to challenge you. Can you drive tomorrow to Turkana, past Kapedo?
How?
Can you drive to Lamu tomorrow? Wake up in the morning and say you're driving to Lamu?
No way.
Can you drive to Ajir tomorrow?
How?
So,
even Baringo.
Elgeyo
Marakwet.
Yes. So what is happening is that the space where the state is not yet failed is very limited. It's probably from Isiolo to to Busia and a few other places. So we are in the process of failing. So the day we have a Gen Z revolution, which makes Nairobi also failed, then the game is over. All right? Now, let me tell you something about, say, for example, some of the things that really we have to know. I was foreign minister. But fortunately, I was also a journalist. I covered the genocide in Rwanda. And I saw dead bodies on River Kagera. Firsthand. I was in Ethiopia-Eritrea war. I covered that. I covered the war between the South Sudan and North Sudan. I was part of a group of Kenyans, including the likes of Gitobo Manyara and Paul Mwite, who are parliamentarians who are agitating for the independence of South Sudan. I did videos on this. I had them shipped out to the White House. Now, you know how many people died in the fight for independence of South Sudan? 1.5 million people. 1.5 million South Sudanese, you can Google it if you want, died in that war for independence. That was about, if you average it in that 50 years, it was about 30,000 people per year died. That is the soft side. Let me tell you the harsh side now. Between 1930 2013 and 2018, 5 years, because of ethnic differences and civil war. That independent South Sudan, where 1.5 million people were killed, 30,000 per year. This time, they are killing at the rate of 80,000 per year, 400,000 people in 5 years. Ethnic mobilization. That's why I have problems with ethnic mobilization. I've not been part of it because I know what it causes in a country.
In your letter, you did mention that, thanking the former President Uhuru Kenyatta, saying, even serving in that position at Jubilee Party, as, for lack of a better reference, as a man from the Luo community, here I was, at a very vantage position for a party that is known to be either Kikuyu or Kalenjin. But there you are, and you served.
You can call it naivety.
Mm-hmm.
And naivety is not a bad thing. And that's why I think that our Gen Zs, that naivety is okay. I'm giving the example of the fact that my own generation, I'll give you the example of some of us who had to go into exile. I can talk of somebody like when they were students, after the attempted August 1 coup of 2002, you had so many young people from the University of Nairobi.
The Gen Zs of the time.
The Gen Zs of the time. They were 21, 22, 23.
Mm-hmm.
Take somebody like Tatas Andugosi. Have you ever heard of his name?
He's my kinsman.
Yes, there you go.
Mm-hmm. From Busia County.
From Busia County.
Correct.
He was imprisoned between 1982 and 1989. He was a Gen Z. He was just 22, 23 when he was taken to jail.
Mm-hmm.
3 months before he was to be released, he died in jail. All right? Mm-hmm. And he's forgotten. At least you know him. He's from Busia.
There's only a spot where is named after him.
Yes.
Adungosi.
Andugosi.
Yeah.
All right?
Just an area.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
There was Jeff Mwangi, died in Norway, in exile. There was Onyango Lo, imprisoned, exiled, and died when he came back. Mm-hmm. Completely hopeless, no job, nothing. There was my classmate, Mwandawiro Muganga.
Mm.
He's still alive, but he was a Gen Z of our time who stood on principle.
Mm-hmm.
It cost him a lot. There was Buke, that was slightly younger than me, imprisoned. There was Mutuse. There's Ongele Pala. There's David Murathe.
Oh.
Yeah. There was Onyango Padi. In fact, I can tell you that after the August 1 coup, even our current Minister for Foreign Affairs and Prime Cabinet Secretary, you should interview Mudavadi. He was arrested. And I can say that if his father was not a minister in President Moi's government that time,
the late Moses Mudavadi,
probably his trajectory in life would be different. Just like my friend David Murathe, his father was fairly powerful and influential, so he was able to probably be where he is today. But so many other ordinary people died, and sometimes it's as if history repeats itself. I mean, the fate of the son of former Speaker and Minister, my friend and brother, the former Minister for Public, the former Minister for Public, Muturi. If
J.B.
Muturi, if his son was not
the former Attorney General,
and the minister.
Yeah.
I mean, probably the trajectory of that son would have been the same as the trajectory of other, cases he would have died in custody, like happened recently, right? So I think that the Gen Zs and all of us as Kenyans have to be able to reflect on where we came from, but also we ought to be able to understand why are we where we are. When I hear my colleague politicians, how often has any of them come here and talked about the youth population bulge? We had the highest rate of population increase in the whole world in the 80s and the 90s. And for decades, we never addressed it. Now, when an economist of some sense, who I served in his cabinet, I worked with President Kibaki. If you went to President Kibaki to talk politics, he would be very, very bored with you. He was only interested in the economy, and we always talked about the youth population bulge. And the economy grew at 7.2% for the first time in the 60-something years of this country. So I don't care who is president. I don't care who becomes president. But as long as we cannot deal, or we do not deal, or we don't even know what the problem is, then we don't have a solution.
Are we somewhere close to the right direction?
We're so far from it, because who is talking about the kind of things we are talking about here?
Tuju.
No. But I'm just saying that as a country, forget about it. I mean, Tuju can talk about it, but it's just one individual.
Correct.
But all of us, do we realize what is ailing us? Do we realize what is ailing us? I mean, at the moment, the most significant players in the political arena have an ethnic base. And there's this fallacy that if my tribe becomes the president or the minister or whoever it is, then that will change our lot. But the truth of the matter, and if you look at the World Bank, maybe I forget about the World Bank, but some computer simulations is that today, if you are below 40, your chances of ever getting a job and get a pay slip, in 60% of the cases, they'll never get a job until they die. If we continue with the current rate of population increase and the low level of economic growth, 60% of the people, the young people, will never get a job until they die.
So where do we take these young people?
Well, the good thing, and I'd like to give some hope, because I think I should not come here as a leader and give the impression that there's absolutely no hope. I think we're very lucky. As a country, the issue of the high population, the demographers say it can be a demographic bomb or a demographic dividend. Having many young people is an advantage if it is managed. Because, say, for example, in Europe, in Japan, they have an aging population. They don't have enough people to do the work.
There's a gap there.
There's a gap there. So we are able to take advantage of this, what is called the demographic problem, to become a demographic advantage. And we can do something about it. The good thing also about it is that it's not rocket science. Other countries have done it. The most successful countries as far as this is concerned, South Korea, which you can call a country of fundis, and Singapore. Singapore is a small country, so South Korea is a good example to work with. And one of the things that they don't have the kind of problems we have here, which we have decided to have here. For example, the first thing I try to do is to find out, oh, your name is John Otieno. Okay, that must be one of my guys because he comes from Sia.
Yeah.
It's absolute nonsense, this ethnic mobilization which goes on in this country. But because it works for the politicians, right, we are not able to get out of it. So that if I steal, for example, then if I'm to face the law for stealing, then I can go back and say, no, but how come the Kikuyus who have stolen are not going to court? Only this thing is now targeting laws. You retreat to your tribe, all right, and the tribe becomes the buffer for the ills that you do.
It's your cushion now.
Yes, it's your cushion now. So those are the kind of things that we should be able to, to overcome.
And Parliament is now being looked at as the epicenter for corruption, with the president mentioning it at State House, nowhere else, during the PG.
You're talking about Parliament being corrupt? How about the church? This is a reflection of our society. And we have allowed this to take root. How about the church? I've just asked you the question. Is the church corrupt?
It is corrupt.
There we go. It is a reflection of our society, and we have allowed it to take root. Right? So there's no way by which the executive can accuse the parliament or the judiciary can accuse the executive. This corruption is almost pathological. Right?
It's widespread.
It's crazy. It's a cancer that we have in this society. But the buck begins and stops with the leadership. And those kind of leaderships have been seen across the world. We can have that resolve as a country, that we are not going to accept corrupt leadership. But Kenyans say, no, even if he's a thief, he's our thief. If he's corrupt, he is ours.
He's ours.
Okay? But let me tell you, I mean, I've been very probably negative and only giving the negative side. I was looking at the fact that in the region, the United Nations did an analysis of where they should take extra UN operations around across the world. And they've decided to increase their presence in Nairobi, moving them from New York, which is more expensive. Of course, that's their main reason. But Nairobi is good enough to be the biggest or the second biggest headquarters. It has been number 3. But with these new additions from the United Nations system, we'll probably become number 2, just after New York, because most likely will be bigger than Geneva. Then Nairobi as a hub for the region. From Nairobi, you can reach 11 capitals in Africa in 2 hours or less. In fact, most of them within 1 hour, which makes Nairobi a natural hub. How do we ensure that we leverage that to our advantage? So we do have certain advantages. We are not a landlocked country. We can do manufacturing under bond, for example. So the solutions are there, but we just need the right leadership. But with all this noise going on about which tribe is able to take advantage and come together with this tribe to beat the other tribe, and yet it's such a fallacy. At the national level, I mean, if I'm talking about, I'll talk about the leadership in this country. I mean, hey, we are married across the tribes.
But my interest now spills over to 2027. The elections are coming. Are you eyeing any seat? Will we see you on the ballot, perhaps? I know you've gone to next into even going for, the top seat.
Yes. The thing is that I keep my options open. But I think that for me, what is more urgent for us is to change the narrative so that we are not hoodwinked, cheated, conned by this ethnic mobilization in the political arena, because we'll still end up having the same problems. The youth population bulge. Take, for example, 1 million kids leaving Form 4 every year. And government can hardly, on a good year, employ 70,000. And that is mainly because of natural attrition, so you hear them being employed as policemen, military and teachers. So if out of 1 million leaving Form 4, you're only able to take care of 70,000, and then maybe the private sector can take maybe another 100, 150,000. So where are you taking these 800,000 kids leaving Form 4? Last year we had 800,000. This year in November, we're going to have another 800,000. The previous year, there was another 800,000 to 1 million. And they're all pouring into the marketplace for jobs. And you have no plan. So why are you surprised when they storm Parliament? And I gave you 6 ways
Correct.
by which a state fails.
Fails.
If you add the seventh one is widespread unemployment and the youth population bulge. In other countries, say for example in some of the failed states, these youth become part and parcel of the militia. They become part and parcel of the militia for the different political tribal leaders. Then your state fails fantastically.